Gordon "Red" Berenson is a native of Regina, and for Red, hockey started at an early age.
Well, I got started in hockey as a 3 or 4 year old. My mother wanted to get me out of the house. We had a small house over on Arthur Street and a rink right across the street, and she put me out there and left me out there for the afternoon. Before you knew it, you were playing hockey. But this was outdoor rinks in Regina back in the early 50s.
Red went on to play for the Regina Pats Midgets, where he was named the SJHL Rookie of the Year in 1956-57. Red had a number of influences along the way that paved a hockey path for him.
Well, when I was a kid, obviously, Jack Staples, he ran the Parks League, and he was the guy that I think really pushed the vision of outdoor rinks around town and kept the leagues organized and so on. And then when I got to play in the PAT organization, it was people like Mike Cartouche and Del Wilson and Murray Armstrong was coaching the Pats then. And then when I got to be old enough to play for the Pats, Frank Mario was a big influence. And I belonged to Montreal. Kenny Reardon was an influence on me and encouraged me to keep playing. They did not like the idea that I was going to Michigan to play college hockey, but they embraced me when I was finished and gave me a chance to play at the next level.
In 1962, Red won the MVP award at the University of Michigan, which was just one of the highlights of his career.
Well, I think the highlight was just making the NHL and coming from Regina to play in the Pats and then to play at Michigan and eventually to play in Montreal with a lot of my idols, with Hickey and Geoffrion and Beliveau and all the great players in Montreal. That was a big thrill for me.
Red went on to play for Montreal, New York, St. Louis, and Detroit, and was part of the legendary 1972 Canada Cup Series against the Soviet Union. Red holds the record of 6 goals scored in a road game and is tied with the likes of Wayne Gretzky for scoring 4 goals in one period. Following his retirement in 1978, Red remained with the St. Louis Blues as a coach and was named NHL Coach of the Year for the 1980-81 season.
Well, I'm still active in hockey. I coach at the University of Michigan, so I'm recruiting all these young players, and we're developing players in a lot of cases that move on and play in the NHL.
When asked if he'd change anything in today's game?
Yeah, one thing I would do is I would take out TV commercials, and I know that's not popular, but I just think it really hurts the momentum of the game, and you hate to break that up for a television commercial. I just can't handle that.
And here is what Red had to say about being inducted into the Saskatchewan Hockey Hall of Fame.
Well, you know, I've always said Regina was a great place to grow up, and I owe my whole career as a hockey player and a coach to my environment in Regina and all the people that I was surrounded by. And to be remembered is really important, because I've remembered Regina. I come back every summer. We still have a cottage at Regina Beach. I've been coming back for literally 40 years, and it's good to be remembered.
Bernie Federko is a native of Foam Lake, where access to a skating surface was never an issue.
We had a beautiful building, a great rink. Of course, Dad would flood the garden in the backyard, so we would play when we weren't at the rink. We were at home playing hockey, and I think that's Saskatchewan, and that's what it's all about. I think that's why there's so many guys that have been given the opportunity to play in the NHL. It's because we've been able to have access to the ice all the time.
Right from the beginning, it was clear that Bernie's involvement in hockey would have some highlights.
We won the Pee Wee Championship for the province of Saskatchewan when I was 12 years old. George Reed came to the banquet and spoke at our awards banquet in the bottom of the church banquet hall there. That was pretty special. It goes back that far, but the biggest thing would be coming and getting the opportunity to play for the Blades, just to make the team, and then to spend 3 years here was the highlight. Certainly, we had great teams in my second and third year. We lost in the 7th game of the Western Final to New West both times, and the highlight came when I was drafted, obviously in the first round, and to start my NHL career.
Bernie's NHL career began in 1976 with the St. Louis Blues and ended in 1990 with the Detroit Red Wings. He was the first player in the NHL to score 50 assists or more in 10 consecutive seasons.
I'll never forget stepping on the ice for the first time. I'll never forget my first goal I scored against Jerry Cheevers in Boston Garden. My first game that I ever played at the old arena in St. Louis, I had a hat trick. We beat Buffalo 6-5, and I got the game-winning goal with just a couple of minutes left. So that was a big factor and big highlight. But you know, it was just the chance to meet so many great people along the way. There are so many highlights that you can't really put a finger on one thing, and I really believe that just the opportunity to play in the National Hockey League, to play 1,000 games, to you know, play against and with players like Gordie Howe and Bobby Hull and, you know, Bobby Orr and, you know, Brian Trottier, and, you know, what I can go through, you know, the great Montreal Canadiens, Lafleur, and all. I mean, it was just, you know, to come from a little town in Saskatchewan and get a chance to play in all the buildings in the National Hockey League and to play against all the great players that I, you know, considered so great, and, you know, got to watch and, you know what it's all about. So I think the whole thing was a highlight to me. And it just couldn't. You don't dream about. Only dream about those things. You don't really think that you'll ever get to do that. And certainly, I lived a dream.
Bernie still holds club records for the Blues of most games played, most assists, and total points, and considers it a great honor to be inducted.
You know, when you consider the number of great hockey players that have, you know, have come out of Saskatchewan, maybe the greatest ever in Gordie Howe. I mean, it's pretty special to be included in that group. Is really an honor. It's very humbling, and it's again something I would have never dreamed of. You know, I dreamed of playing hockey, and I dreamed of playing in the NHL. I didn't dream about going into a Hall of Fame anywhere, and for this to happen is really special.
Clark Gillies was born and raised in Moose Jaw, and like other kids in Saskatchewan, it started early.
I got a pair of my brother's old hand-me-down skates, and went up to the rink. My dad told me that I couldn't take a stick, though. I had to go up and learn how to skate without a stick. And you know, when I could come back home and tell him that I hadn't fallen down, that was when I got my first stick. So, and I thought that was important because, you know, hockey players are very dependent on their stick, and I think I learned how to skate a little better without a stick.
Like every other person that grows up on the prairies, you know, we're a hardy bunch.
Well, I think Saskatchewan, you know, is really just because of the climate there it's just built for hockey. As I said, you know, we go out and anything that was frozen, we would skate on. It was the river, you know. I go ice fishing with my uncle out at Buffalo Pound, and you know, get bored of ice fishing, put my skates on and skate up and down the lake.
Clark was a gifted athlete in not only hockey, and there were others that helped guide him as he developed.
Well, I was able to sign a professional baseball contract with the Houston Astros when I was 16. I had a tryout with a couple of scouts, one in particular, Pat Gillies, who went on to some pretty good fame in Major League Baseball. The other guy's name was a guy by the name of Ed Matthews, and they came to Moose Jaw, and I had a tryout. Did very well that day. They said they wanted to talk to my dad, so we went back up to the house, and I sat in the kitchen with my mom while my dad and Ned Andreoni, who was our ball coach at that time, and the two scouts, Gillies and Matthews, they spoke for a few minutes, and then about 5 minutes into the thing, my dad came in and said they want you to sign a baseball contract with the Houston Astros. I go, what? He said, yeah, they want to actually pay you. I said, really? I said, now it sounds more interesting. But so they gave me a $5,000 signing bonus, and they were paying me $500 a month to play baseball. I said, how could this be a bad thing? After the third year, they said they wanted me to make a decision on, you know, now you have to decide, do you want to play hockey or do you want to play baseball? And it was a pretty easy decision for me. I mean, I've been playing 9 months out of the year playing hockey and 3 months out of the year playing baseball. So it was, as I said, an easy decision. And I thanked them for the opportunity, and then I concentrated full-time on hockey after that.
Clark played 3 seasons with the Regina Pats, culminating in a Memorial Cup win in 1974, the year he was drafted by the New York Islanders. Clark played on the Long Island Lightning Company line with Brian Trottier, Billy Harris, and later Mike Bossy, who led the team to 4 consecutive Stanley Cup titles in the early 80s.
To be recognized for the accomplishments that I made, you know, not only in Saskatchewan but throughout my career, and to come back home and to be given this honor is very, very special.
Eddie Shore was born in Fort Capel in 1902. His professional hockey career began in 1925, playing for the Regina Capitals and the Edmonton Eskimos in the Western Canada Hockey League. In 1926, the league folded and Eddie was acquired by the Boston Bruins of the NHL. In 55 Stanley Cup playoff games, Eddie Shore scored 6 goals, 13 assists, but drew 181 penalty minutes. Shore won 2 Stanley Cups with the Bruins and after 13 seasons was traded to the New York Americans. In 1939, he became owner of the Springfield Indians of the American Hockey League. In his first year, he owned, coached, and played for the team while simultaneously playing for the New York Americans. In his honor, the American Hockey League created the Eddie Shore Award for the most outstanding defenseman. In his NHL career, Shore was named the Hart Trophy winner 4 times. A tale of his toughness includes an incident with newly acquired Billy Coteau when he made a rush against Shore in their very first practice. A violent collision ensued that sent Coteau into the boards unconscious while Eddie's ear was almost severed. Amputation was suggested by several doctors, but Eddie refused until he found a doctor to sew it back on while he watched with a mirror and received no anesthetic in the process. Mick McGeough of Regina didn't start off his career in hockey wearing black and white stripes.
Well, I played a lot and I was an up and aspiring young hockey player. Wasn't quite good enough to crack it in the pros, but I enjoyed playing. I went up and played a couple years in Spokane and won a couple Allen Cup championships there. And when I got back, I didn't want to finish with the hockey business, so I started officiating. I was lucky. I got in right away, and ever since that, it's been a good ride.
Mick began officiating at the age of 23 and moved from linesman to referee in the WHL that culminated in officiating the 1986 Memorial Cup. To him, officiating was fun.
It is a challenge every night, different challenge every night, and you're dealing with so many types of personalities on the ice, and I found that fun. I found it challenging, but it was also a lot of fun.
In 1987, Mick moved on to the NHL, where he officiated in All-Star games as well as the Stanley Cup Finals. And he likes the game the way it's officiated today.
I love the game I love the way the good skilled player is able to play now. As far as the officiating end of it, no hooking, holding, grabbing anymore. That's the way it should be. Let the good players show their skills and let the good players show what they can do without being impeded illegally. And it's a good game right now, real good game. We tinker with this great game of ours a little too much, I think. I think we leave it the way it is. There's some little fine things we can do to tune it back up a little bit, but the game is really good. Let's not make more rules to make rules. I like the way the game is called right now, and I like the way the game moves right now. So I would leave it as it is, and again, do a little fine tuning. That's about it.
For Mick, he's happy to be inducted alongside some of our province's best products.
Listen, anytime you get an honor like that in places like Saskatchewan, where there is so many great players and officials that come from Saskatchewan, it's a great honor. I'm excited about it to go in with Bernie and Clark and Bill Hay, and I mean that's just an honor. Those guys are real Hockey Hall of Famers. Those guys are the big hitters, and this is a big deal too. But you know what? It's a big thrill for me.
Mick retired from officiating in 2008, having reffed over 1,000 games. Bill Hay, a native of Saskatoon, recalls the winters and hockey on the prairies.
Everybody loves hockey, and why I did is because I was pretty good at it, and I played in the Parks League and won city trophies, and played with the Regina Pat organization, and graduated from that organization. I went to Colorado College on a hockey scholarship. I graduated from there. I went on to play with the Chicago Blackhawks for 8 years and graduated from there. And then I went into the oil industry with Doc Seaman, who was from Rollo, Saskatchewan, and then got back into the hockey game with Hockey Canada and the Hockey Hall of Fame, and also I ran the Calgary Flames for 5 years. So it was in my blood, and it stayed in my blood, and I really enjoyed it.
From the Pats to Colorado College, Bill Hay was off to his first training camp with the Montreal Canadiens.
When I graduated, I went to, was owned by Montreal because they own Regina Pat's organization, and I went to their training camp, and I sat between Boom Boone, Jeffrey On, and Jean Beliveau, which was a thrill. and they asked me where I played last year, kid. I said Colorado College, and Jeffrey said, what part of Quebec is that in? So everybody's a character and everybody loved him.
Bill played his first NHL game with Chicago and recalls that there was no TV coverage in those days.
They were on radio, it wasn't television. But you know, the first game, NHL game I saw, I played in. And as a joke I make, that's the first time I heard of Zamboni, the ice machine. So our first game was against the Rangers, and Rudy Pillis, the coach, was talking about the Zamboni was going faster than most of you guys. And I was sat on the bench till Christmas then. And at the start of the second, I asked Bobby Hollow, sitting beside me, I said, what number is this kid Zamboni? Because he seems to be having a good game.
In his rookie year, Bill won the Calder Memorial Trophy and in 1961 helped Chicago win the Stanley Cup. Following his playing career, Bill wasn't quite finished with hockey.
Well, the greatest achievements that I look back over my career really comes down to starting the Center of Excellence with the Saddle Dome Foundation and funds that we generated here, and the research and development that we put in the game at the grassroots level. You know, Canada was falling behind, and that's how the '72 series was established, because they put together Hockey Canada with two objectives, and one was to best on best, and the other was research and development, improve the game at the grassroots level. And I was heavily involved in that, and that's a thrill for me.
Delbert Wilson, a native of Craik, has a long history with hockey in Regina, Western Canada, and the nation. He had a 25-year career in Regina, where he started out as a goaltender for the Regina Abbots in 1945. In 1948, he began coaching the Pats minor bantam, midget, juvenile, and junior B teams simultaneously until 1965, winning 35 provincial and 3 international titles. He was the GM of the Pats from 1956 to 1968, while also scouting Western Canada for the Montreal Canadiens. Del was a driving force in establishing the Western Canada Junior Hockey League and the Canadian Major Junior Hockey League, and was part of the group that led the WHL into partnership with Ontario and Quebec. Del was part of a group that purchased the Pats in 1970 and once again served as GM and president for 6 seasons. He has served as chairman of the board for the WHL and the CJHL, and in 1995 he finally retired as a scout for the Montreal Canadiens, having served them for over 47 years. John Jack Maddia was born in Moose Jaw but grew up in Fort Capel, where he had a long and outstanding involvement with hockey.
1939 years old, went to school in Fort Capel, and I started skating that year, and I played bantam hockey, and from then on I just kept on playing. Well, I played hockey for the Navy a little bit in Regina, and then out at Victoria, where I did my basic training. Then when I caught a ship, Canada's first aircraft carrier, went over to Scotland and whatnot. That's another story, but took my hockey equipment and played a few games over there. And then I lost all my hockey equipment when the ship we got torpedoed. But we didn't sink. That's another story. And when I came back, I got involved pretty heavy in sports.
Jack has served on the board of the Saskatchewan Amateur Hockey Association, has been president of the Saskatchewan Hockey Association, spent time on the board of the Canadian Hockey Association, and has participated in international coaching clinics.
In 1974, when the WHA played the Russians over in Russia, there were 4 coaches from Saskatchewan. One was Barry Trapp, Don Burgess, Dick Weiss, and myself went over on a seminar to Russia, and we watched the series. But we learned quite a bit from the Russians on their coaching philosophy. they liked our style of hockey, which they rough and tumble. I like seeing watching the Olympics because to me that's hockey.
Ever humble, Jack notes the important work that volunteers provide.
Volunteers have done a lot more than I have, and they haven't been recognized. But I feel personally that I'm representing them. And thank God, we have these volunteers in hockey and in all sports.
Jack is grateful to be inducted, but he owes a lot of credit to someone else.
This is the second year of their Hockey Hall of Fame, and I feel very honored that I've been selected to be inducted. And in closing, I want to say one thing. I'm indebted to my wife, because I was involved in local politics too. I was a mayor of Fort Qu'Appelle for 8 years, a councillor for 6 years, mayor at Indian Head for 5 years, besides my involvement in the sport. We have 3 children, and she was the one that raised them, not me. So I'm indebted to her very much.
In 1913, a senior hockey club was formed called the Regina Victorias. In their very first year of existence, the club went on to compete for the 1914 National Championship, the Allen Cup, and won it. The club defeated the Winnipeg Monarchs in Winnipeg to claim the cup, but then had to defend a challenge from Grand Mère, Quebec in a 2-game total point format, which they did by a 10-5 margin. The Regina Victorias took a year off in 1917 because of the World War, but went on after that, claiming 6 Saskatchewan senior championships up to 1929. In their only other Allen Cup appearance in 1922, the club failed to match their inaugural year performance.